And today's challenge is to fix a leak around the valve cover of this 2013 Mini Cooper R56. 1.6 liter, of course, and we've got the kit to do that. So let's just dive right in. Okay, first step, let's get the front cover off. You have to take the oil cap off to get clearance. Okay. And now we can release the spark plug coils. Unplug. A little bit of oil on that one. So 1 and 4, a little bit of oil, the rest of them pretty clean. Okay, now let's get some other peripherals off. To be honest, these clips, this is supposed to release the clips here. I'm usually it gets a little bit a little hard and crunchy, and it's almost better just to reach down and release them with a screwdriver. There you go, it's off. Got a couple plugs at this end. Standard kind of BMW / Mini fare, so you can just pop that clip up, release that one, pop that clip up, release that one. There's a little strain relief that's on this vertical section here, so let's go ahead and pop it out of the place. There we go. Alright, and we're pretty close to having it done. Alright, now we got a bunch of 10mm bolts. There's one here, and a bunch around the periphery. So let's just get those off. Okay, I'm going to use a magnetic tool to get these deep ones that I left in place. And make sure all the bolts are the same length as you take them out on any job like this, just so you know where any funny length ones go back in. Okay, and next we've got an 8mm nut on top of this ground wire here. Okay, I'm holding the 10mm. I'll turn the 8mm off while making sure the lug doesn't get twisted. Alright. And move the cable out of the way, and we can take the 10mm stud off. And you will have to remember that goes in the center, so that is kind of the one exception so far. Okay, missed one back here. That one's a little tighter, still easy enough to get to. Alright, so getting them off, we'll have to take this one off, of course. Comes off with the little insert here. Okay, and there's one more left here that just has to be, this whole assembly could just be picked up off of this little tab that it rides on, exposing the last 10mm bolt. Alright, and at this point we should have it essentially clear. So I'm going to go get a little pry bar and just gently rock it. Okay, I can hear it releasing, but you don't want to force anything on something as fragile as a plastic valve cover. So take your time, find an edge you can get on. At this point it shouldn't really be that tough to get it off. This one is definitely stuck down pretty good. I'm just going to get a little liberating love taps around the periphery. See if we can get it unstuck. Somebody might have been doing a little magnificent engineering on this thing and adding some sort of adhesive or something to try to prevent leaks. Okay, it's it's released to here. Again, I don't want to put much pressure on this if I can help it. I can hear it releasing. Oh boy, that's way more tension than it should take to take this off. Again, don't get in a hurry. Don't bugger something up because you get in a hurry. Like I said, it is releasing. I can hear it slowly giving up as it goes around. So, yeah, you can see it's definitely coming up. I don't know. I've never seen one stuck like this. So this is a whole new experience for both of us, folks. And I'm putting upward pressure, prying against the case here. All right. Looking for another access point to be able to get a little bit of pressure. There we go. Got a little bit of pressure under the case right over here in this corner by the oil dipstick tube. Now your Mini might be just a little bit different. They have different style valve covers for different model engines, but this whole process should be pretty much the same. And one thing that I didn't think to do was to remove the wiring harness. That's really got to come off. So go ahead and pry off these little clips where they are. Okay, that shouldn't take a lot of tension to do that. Okay, and there's one last one here. Oh. Okay, this one, I guess it ended up the clip is stuck on, so it's really going to be easier just to break the zip tie and replace it. I hear it breaking loose. Shouldn't really be required to break it loose. Normally they will just lift off. Go ahead and release this vacuum line for the brake booster here. It comes off the vacuum pump on the side of the engine. It should just be a squeeze release. Okay, that will give us a little better clearance to get this out of the way. Alright, there's another one of those silly clips with the zip tie back here. I'm going to go ahead and cut the zip tie because, quite honestly, the zip ties are probably past it anyway. Alright, there's another one of those silly clips with the zip tie back here. I'm going to go ahead and cut the zip tie because, quite honestly, the zip ties are probably past it anyway, and it's just easier than getting these stupid clips off. So with that, I believe we should be pretty close to ready to finally get this stupid valve cover off. All right, now the valve cover is off. We can start taking a look around. You want to look at things like the timing chain tensioner. Just make sure you don't see any issues there. That's not something you want to have a problem with. Make sure the timing chain is nice and tight. There's no looseness anywhere apparent. You're looking for any issues with valve springs. This has got the Valvetronic kind of setup on it, which is just an overly complicated and ridiculously mechanical situation that basically uses the valves as a throttle body by varying the opening. So we're going to ignore that and just press on because you don't care about that. Alright, I'm just going to try to get started getting the old valve cover gasket out of the head. Alright. Might need a little bit of extra help at these corners with the little peg that goes down. Alright, and there it is. It's pretty well perished. It was, I've seen worse, but it's definitely due for replacement. And I'm going to clean up around the outside. I'm just, first run was with a clean microfiber towel. And then we'll do whatever is required to get the rest of it. But this is just to primarily keep the... I'm going to pick out this RTV that's there in the corner. And similarly, a little blob back here in this corner. Okay, next I'm going to use a little bit of solvent. I mean, you can use brake cleaner. I like to use acetone. I think it's a little less caustic and is likely to cause less issues. Not that either one of them are going to be a problem. But I want to wipe this down, and with the worst spots, I think I'm probably going to have to use a scouring pad or something just a little more abrasive. Okay, so like where I have a little bit of buildup in the corners, I'm going to use a Scotch-Brite pad. This is a green Scotch-Brite pad. Get a little bit of acetone on it, and just give a little bit of a scrub. And the important thing is to get the mating surface clean. Now, it's as nice as it'd be to have all of this spotlessly clean in front of the gasket. It's really not going to make a whole lot of difference. I mean, you don't want to leave enough that there could be an edge that would actually prevent the cover from seating fully. But beyond that, it doesn't have to be bright and shiny to do a good job of sealing. So I'm just going to go around, continue to clean up the outside edge of the head where it contacts the gasket, and we'll come back when I'm done. Okay, I'm going to remove the coil, the spark plug well gaskets from the valve cover, and they might be in there a little bit of stickiness, but they should come out without fighting it too hard. The next step is parts cleaner. You can use brake cleaner. It's not brakes though, so it's a part. So let's just get this thing, give it a good dose. Particularly paying attention down the seam where the new gasket is going to live. And it's going to take a little bit of scrubbing to get this top side done, folks. It's definitely dirtier than the inside. Okay, a little scrubbing to get the worst of it off. It honestly doesn't have to be perfect because I'm going to be cleaning the entire engine, and this is just going along for the ride at that point. So anything that shows from the outside will be cleaned up separately. Including my poor sidewalk here. Alright, and I just doused it really good with some basically Armor All type stuff. I'm out of the real thing, so I use my cheap alternative just to protect it a little bit now. Just wipe it down, make it pretty. Okay, and finally clean up the actual spark plug tunnels here. Some of them are going to be a little oilier than others, since some of them were leaking and some of them weren't. Okay, I'm going to pull out these shredded bits of zip ties here. This one's going to be difficult. I'll force it through from the back a little bit. See how brittle those are? They're really, really in bad shape. So let me okay, because this is a Mini, you want to use red as your fancy dress-up color. So just feed some new zip ties through the slots that are left, and you can use those to reconnect securely the cables that run down the back of the valve cover, and without having to worry about them snapping off because they're getting old and brittle. So there you go, folks. So what we should have here is a full set. That should do everything we need, maybe more. Obviously the actual main gasket, and then we've got 4 spark plug hole gaskets, which should just get fit down into here. And if you look, they're pretty symmetrical. They go in either way, and they have the little tabs that will hold them in place while you're manipulating the valve cover back into place, which is a good thing. Okay. Next, we need to place this monster, and you should be able to figure it out fairly easily by the juxtaposition of the little bumps and everything, but probably start in the middle and work toward the edges, trying not to create any unusual amount of stress on anything as you press it into place. But again, they're all held in place with the little tabs, little keeper tabs. So we're going to trust those to do their job, and be very careful here in the corners. You want to get these corners right. That's really the crux of this whole climb, folks, is that you don't want leaks here at these 2 corners. That's why we're going to add a little RTV to the block, to the cylinder head rather, to prevent that. So we're just going to go ahead and continue placing the valve cover. And we are pressed in and ready to go. The other 2 that I neglected to remove at this point are the 2 that go around the base of the 2 inside 10mm bolt connections. So let me get those out of there. Again, having a little pick like this is gold. You can use a little screwdriver or whatever, but you just want to get the old ones out, get the new ones in, get it clean as you need to get it, and press the new ones in. They do look a little different than the old ones, to be honest. There you go. Okay. Okay. Gonna clean up around the spark plug holes. with a clean rag. Take a last look at everything, make sure it's all clean enough to be installing a new valve cover on. And we're ready to get started on the RTV spot. Alright, I've used a bungee to pull this out of the way a little bit and another one to pull the PCV out of the way a little bit. And I'm ready to place the actual valve cover. So, should be able to get it in here without too much ado. And the reel, you want to make sure you got it square before you contact down on the RTV. Alright, and make sure you got your cables under your new shiny red zip ties, and a little bit of pressure, and it all looks good. I don't see any issues there at all. You may need to bump it around to make sure it's absolutely centered, but at this point you can start dropping the bolts in and getting them just snug down. You don't want to get them tight at this point. You don't want to tighten anything up until you got them all in, and then you want to use a torque wrench. So we're going to go through all that, folks. So let me get these in place. Okay, remember your special little stud bolt goes in right there. Okay, the last two go deep. So get your you may want to get your magnetic tool to get them started. So I'm going to stick it on the end of that, take it carefully down, and get it placed. And you should be able to actually turn it in a couple threads so that you can pull the tool out without the bolt following. Okay. Now we are ready to run these down. Now the thing is, these have to be torqued to only 9 foot-pounds. So 9 foot-pounds is not much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a, I'm going to go ahead and use my ratchet, but I'm going to use very judiciously. I'm going to be very careful with it so that I don't over-torque anything. And I'm going to be following the torque sequence that is recommended. They recommend you start with these, and then start working out around the circumference. Now, again, I'm not going to be getting these tight. Just snug. Just barely snug. So let's get that one down. Let's get these inside ones. Okay, we're going to use a smaller is better whenever you're doing low torque applications. I'm going to use this 1/4 inch drive with a 3/8 adapter to get our 108 inch-pounds or 9 foot-pounds of torque, which is I think 12.5 Newton meters. And you can see I left a lot on the table whenever I tighten these down. There's my click. So I'll go to these. All right. Okay, and then I would recommend going back around one time just for grins, just to make sure you didn't miss anything, because if you leave one loose, you will have a leak, you will be sad. And it would be easy to miss one. I'm just going to go around the outside. I don't have to go in sequence anymore. Okay, I'm going to insert the tubes. You can see the identifying feature is this little notch, and there's a hole in the tube, and there's a little notch on the back of the spark plug well. And if you slide it down carefully, it should catch that notch and lock in. And if it doesn't, the coil will push it the rest of the way in. But they should just go right on in. Somebody sat on this one apparently. So luckily these are very, very thin wall. And I'm going to give a little clean to my poor long-suffering coils here. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to tie these zip ties down. All right, let's get some coil wires back into place and get these things plugged back. Okay, I'm going to put that one down before I forget it. Slip the strain relief over that. Slip these wires onto their appropriate strain reliefs as well. Let's see, this one goes up here. Looks like it slid just a little bit. Okay, and we can now safely, well, let's plug this one in before we tie that one down. So you can plug in your two cam sensors here. Zip tie this down. Okay, hook your vacuum line back up. You can disconnect this now. Push it back into place. Another zip tie to be done, which again I'm going to do after I place the valve cover. Just check your work, make sure you've got everything. I'm going to put the 8mm nut back on the ground. There it is. Push this into place so it's not going to interfere with anything. There's a little notch for it to live in. Seems overkill to me, but you know, what do I know? And we're now ready to actually place the cover. Now, folks, I don't really know what happened to this before I got it. It looks like they used some sort of weird epoxy goober glue. And then make sure this cable is not in the way. This one should be not in the way. Push it down. All the clips should have engaged. A little tap to make sure. Okay, and then go get your two screws. Again, these are T30s, so you'll want your T30 driver. That'll work. Okay. Let's put the oil filler cap back in place. Let's trim off all of those red zip ties so they look truly custom. Now we get our air cleaner housing back into position. All right, got one more zip tie to hold one more wire in place. Hook up our PCV line. Nice positive connection. Next, we're just going to tighten down the hose clamp on the air filter box so it's not leaking. If that's leaking, it's going to throw some odd signals to your MAF or your map, whichever that is, I forget. And I think, folks, we now should have a leak-free car, which means the next step is going to be to clean this dirty mess up all around the outside. Thanks for watching.